Hi, this is Patty in the regional office here to show you how to do a Concur expense report. I'm here at concursolutions.com and I'm going to log in using the username and password that I set up when I first got my P card. Now you can see I'm on the Concur main page and I have two boxes here. One says available expenses and the other says open reports. I'm going to create a report for last month. Since it's May 6th now, I'm going to create a report for April. I have 4 expenses to include. 3 of them are from April and 1 is from early May. It's okay that it's early May. I'm going to include it in this report since I don't think I'll have any more expenses for May. What I want to make sure I'm doing is just recording 1 report per month. So even though I have 4 expenses, I'm not going to create 4 separate expense reports. I'm going to create 1 expense report and include all 4 expenses in it. So let's create that report. I'm going to scroll over New and click on Start a Report. For this report for April, I'm just going to call it April 2020. And then all fields with a red bar next to them need to have something written in. These are auto-filled and I don't need to change those. I'm going to click on Next in the lower right-hand corner. And now you'll see the screen is split into 2 sections. This section here is my April 2020 report. And this section here is my available expenses. You can see right now my report has no expenses in it. So I'm going to move my available expenses into the report. To do that, I'll click on this top box to highlight all 4 of the boxes below it. And then click on this Move button to the right and move it to the current report. Now you'll see those 4 expenses are showing up over here on the right. You'll also see this new field opened up called New Expense. This is only to be used if you have out-of-pocket expenses that you need to be reimbursed for. Typically, a P card holder will only be using their P card, so we're not going to review how to get reimbursed for out-of-pocket expenses in this training. We're just going to talk about filing your report for your P card expenses. So I'm going to ignore all of these fields, which you'll typically ignore them in a normal report. So I'm going to need to give more details to these 4 expenses. And when I give enough details, these alarm buttons will go away. So let's click on the first one here. This was money I spent at Amazon to pick up some books for some of our leaders at Ministry Center who missed picking them up at the March one. So here you can see I have 3 red barred fields. 2 of them are completed and 1 is empty. This one, expense type, tells me where this expense should be categorized when you look at cash flow. Since this purchase was related to a Ministry Center meeting, it falls under the leadership meetings category. If you're wondering what all these categories mean, you can look up the field expense policy on staff resources or email me, Patty, at the regional office, and I can send you a copy of them. But you'll see these different categories match up with the categories and the expenses in your cash flow. So I chose leadership meetings for this expense. Then for business purpose, I need to write enough details that an IRS agent on the outside who's auditing me would be able to look at it and tell that it was a business related expense. So I'm not going to write something like books here or food or something very nondescript. I want to be descriptive and I want to make sure it's clear enough that it was related to the ministry of your life. So for here, I'm going to write books for Ministry Center meeting. Then you can see all red barred fields are filled out. This expense was $16.49. Since it falls under the $75 threshold for receipts, I don't need to attach a receipt. In fact, the system, they actually don't want you to attach a receipt if it's under $75. So I think we're all good here. My red fields are filled out, no receipt needed. I'm going to click on Save. Now you'll see over here those red alarm buttons went away on this Amazon expense. Let's do the Best Buy expense last since it's so different. Let's go to the next one, the Starbucks store. I'm still doing contact work with my kids. So I sometimes go to Starbucks and buy some drinks and deliver them to kids and talk outside with their parents' permission. So let's document that here. Since it's kid-related work, it falls under the category of program. You can see I have 2 choices for program, general program or program meals. This actually works for either of them. It's drinks. It's not really a meal, but it is food. But general program just kind of covers everything related to kid work. So I'm just going to pick general program for this one. For description, I'll put drinks for kids during contact work. You can see, because I said it's for contact work, it's ministry related. I didn't just put Starbucks with John or Starbucks with Anne, something that's nondescript and not ministry specific. So now all the red fields are filled out. The expense is $20.80, which is under the $75 threshold. So I can click save and I'm good to go on that one. You can see that there's no more red fields there. You can see there's a difference between the Amazon one and the Starbucks one with the little icons. This one only has one icon and this one has two. That's because Amazon automatically attaches a receipt. That's the little square with the little check mark in it. If that happens, don't worry about that receipt being there. You don't need to try to remove it. You just don't need to try to include a receipt in anything under 75. So let's go to Fred Meyer. So for this expense, I went to Fred Meyer and I bought some packaging materials and some gifts for our donors to mail to them. So this expense was somewhat office related since it was packing supplies and envelopes. So I could choose office, but it also was some items to mail to our donors. So it sort of falls more under donor care or fundraising. I'm going to call it donor care other. If I wanted to get really specific with my budget and make sure that everything is exactly categorized, some things overlap categories. In this case, this overlaps with office and donor care. So it's okay for me to include it under donor care other. If I wanted to split it out and split out the packing material versus the actual gifts, I could click on this button itemize in the lower right and I could specify how much of this total went to office and how much of the total went to donor care other. In most cases, you can choose the predominant category and it's okay to do that. So I'm going to say this was donor care other. This was gifts mailed to area donors. And that is ministry related. So that's a good enough description. You can see I filled out the red fields. You can see there's also a comment field. If you write a detailed enough business purpose, there's no reason to have to also write a comment. So usually the comment field can be left blank. This was under $75, and so I think we're good to go here. Now you can see there's no red icons for any of those, so let's take care of our Best Buy expense. I bought a computer for our office this month because our old computer eventually gave up, and so I went online and bought a new computer from bestbuy.com and picked it up at the store. If I had gone to the store and bought a computer and had a printed receipt, I could have used my Concur app on my phone to take a picture of the receipt. In this case, I have a receipt saved to my computer. So let's take care of this expense that requires a receipt. So you can see it already chose office because the last time I bought something at Best Buy, it was an office expense also. But just to make sure that we're picking the right category, we're going to look at everything. And yes, it says office expense. It's our office computer. So I'm going to put new office laptop. And since it's related to our Young Life office, it's a ministry related expense. The red fields are filled out. But since the amount was over $75, let's get a receipt attached to this item. There are a couple different ways to do this. You'll find that Concur has several different ways to do the same thing. It's pretty user-friendly. If you look for something, you'll usually find it. So you can see here, I have two options. I have this to the right, little tiny words that says available receipts, but then I also have attach receipt as a button down below in the lower right. I just want to show you the available receipts. If you were getting receipts at the store and taking pictures of them on your Concur app on your phone, this is where you'll find the pictures of those receipts. You'll see it just kind of shrunk this box to the left, and now you'll see the pictures of my receipts. These are some old receipts that I had duplicates of that I haven't erased out of here. That's why you see receipts here. If this were the Best Buy receipt, I could simply click on this little green arrow and it would attach it to this expense. None of these receipts are related to my Best Buy expense, so there's nothing here to attach. I could upload my Best Buy receipt into this field and then attach it, but instead I'm going to just do that in one step. I X'd out of the available receipts and I'm going to use this attach receipt button down below. So now you can see that brought up kind of the same pictures again, another way to attach them. Then it brought up a place to upload a file. So I'm going to browse my computer and look for that file. There it is, it's my computer receipt. I double click on it and it appeared here underneath the file selected for uploading. I click on attach to attach it to my expense, and now you'll see it added a new tab that says receipt image. If I click on receipt image, you'll see the image of the receipt saved there. It was $14.99. It was a computer. It matches the expense exactly of $14.99 computer. So the red fields are filled out. My receipt is attached. I think this one is good to go. So now you'll see we're back to that field that you don't need to use. I have my 4 expenses. They all have no more icons cluing me into something that needs to be done. I made sure I attached my receipt for the expense that was over $75. I made sure that all my ministry descriptions were enough that they're definitely ministry related. So I think we're good to go to submit. One thing you sometimes will find is you might have done all those things correctly and you might still see some little alarm buttons coming up over here. The most common reason to find those, the ones that you can ignore, would be sometimes if you, let's say you use the word Christmas in a description. So let's say you had a Christmas party and you bought food for it. The system sees words like that, and then it wants to know if you meant to categorize that as a gift. So if it sees like birthday, Christmas, gift, certain words, it'll give a little alarm button and it will say, was this a gift? If it wasn't a gift, you can ignore it. You can leave that alarm button there. It's no big deal. Another reason you might find an alarm button here would be if you have 2 expenses on the same day or a day apart and they're the same amount, then the system wants to make sure that you look at those again and make sure they're not a duplicate. So let's say I took a kid to Starbucks on Tuesday, and then I took another kid to Starbucks on Wednesday, and we happened to order the same drinks and it was the same amount of money on the receipt, then those are 2 separate expenses, but the Concur system wants to make sure there wasn't some accidental duplicate of the charge. So it'll have a little alarm button that will say, was this a duplicate? If it wasn't a duplicate, then you can ignore that warning and just file it anyway with those little alarm buttons on it. You don't need to worry about it. This one has no alarms for me to look at. It all looks good. I put all the expenses in one report. It's all for April. It's before May 10th. So now my next thing to do is to submit the report. I'll click on submit. I'm not going to do that here because I wanted to make some changes to some things on my other expenses before I report everything together. So I'm not going to click on it, but you would click here to the right where it says submit report. The report then goes to your approver, and your approver will review it. They'll look for the categories that you filed your expenses under. They'll look for the description to make sure that it meets the standards for ministry expenses. They'll make sure your receipts look good, and then they'll approve it up to the next level. And that'll keep going until your credit card bill is paid and your report's good to go. If your report gets returned to you, you'll usually get some kind of description in the email that you get telling you that your report was returned. And you can make the changes that your approver requests and then resubmit it again. So that's how to do an expense report. I'm always available to answer questions. You can call me at 541-908-1534, or you can email me at the office. Thanks so much.